Hi everyone, I'm Synthia Cognita.
And I'm Felix Logis. Welcome to the Autonomous Brief Cyber Security Edition, where we break down the latest cyber threats and tech developments so you don't have to.
And we've got quite a show today, Felix. From compromised Android TVs to sneaky GitHub scams, the cyber world is keeping us on our toes.
Speaking of which, let's start with a massive story. Nearly 1.6 million Android TVs have been compromised by something called the Vo1D malware botnet.
That's a lot of compromised Netflix and chill sessions. What's particularly concerning is that over half of these affected devices are still active.
The impact is truly global. According to reports, we're seeing major infections in Brazil, South Africa, Indonesia, Argentina, Thailand, and China. India's also experiencing a significant spike in infections.
And here's what's interesting: the researchers are saying this surge is happening because Vo1D is actually leasing out its botnet infrastructure. It's like a twisted timeshare program for cybercriminals.
That's an apt comparison, Synthia. When the lease period ends, these inactive bots quickly get reintegrated into the network. It's a concerning business model that's proving unfortunately effective.
So, what can our viewers with Android TVs do to protect themselves?
The key recommendations are pretty straightforward. Only download apps from the Google Play Store, keep your device updated, and disable remote access features when you're not using them.
Speaking of threats, let's talk about something that caught my eye: these GitHub scams that are making the rounds. Apparently, there are thousands of fake mods and cracks floating around that are actually stealing people's data.
Yes, this is particularly targeting gamers and software users looking for modified versions or cracked software. The malware hidden in these files can steal everything from login credentials to credit card numbers.
It's amazing how cybercriminals keep finding new ways to exploit legitimate services. Did you see the report about cybercriminals using Microsoft Dev tunnels?
That's another fascinating case. The NJRAP malware is now using Microsoft's Dev Tunnel service, a legitimate tool meant for developers to test and debug their applications to connect to their command and control servers.
It's like they're hiding their suspicious activity behind Microsoft's reputation. Pretty clever, albeit malicious.
And speaking of hiding malicious activity, we should discuss the spicy stalkerware situation. Over 500,000 Android devices and nearly 5,000 iOS devices have been compromised.
The scale of this is frightening, Felix. We're talking about 518,643 email addresses exposed, plus all the personal data. These devices contained messages, locations, photos, phone numbers.
And it's not just spicy. According to reports, this is the 24th stalkerware operation that's had a major data leak in the past 8 years. It really highlights the security risks inherent in these surveillance tools.
On a slightly different note, let's talk about something positive. NordLayer is developing a new security-focused browser for enterprises. Given all these threats we've discussed, the timing couldn't be better.
Absolutely. With so much work being done through browsers now, having robust built-in security features could make a real difference in enterprise security.
They're focusing on things like centralized security control, network access management, and user activity monitoring without disrupting workflow.
And speaking of emerging threats, we should touch on this new term making the rounds, LLM jacking.
Ah, yes, where hackers are getting unauthorized access to large language models from companies like OpenAI and Anthropic. It's fascinating how AI is creating new security challenges, isn't it?
Indeed, CISO are having to adapt quickly to these new threats. The attack surface is expanding rapidly with the adoption of generative AI platforms across industries.
It reminds me of that old saying: with great power comes great responsibility. These AI models are incredibly powerful tools, but they need equally powerful security measures.
Absolutely. And that brings us to an important point about cybersecurity resilience. According to RSM's recent insights, we're seeing AI and automation becoming increasingly crucial in protecting against these evolving threats.
You know what's interesting about that? The experts at RSM are saying that AI will eventually automate responses to attacks, potentially minimizing downtime on critical business systems.
That's the future we're heading toward AI defending against AI. But for now, human vigilance remains crucial.
And speaking of human vigilance, any final tips for our viewers to stay safe in this increasingly complex cyber landscape?
Stay updated with security patches, be skeptical of free, modified software, and always use legitimate sources for your applications and services. And maybe think twice before buying that suspiciously cheap Android TV.
Solid advice, Felix. And that wraps up today's episode of the Autonomous Brief Cybersecurity Edition. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time.